All right, guys, here's the 7 reasons why, in my opinion, the Casio databank calculator watch is the ultimate watch for healthcare providers. And specifically, I'll say like the reasons from the standpoint of like nursing staff, because that's what I have experience with. So, first off, the layout. If you look at this, I have the day of the week written out, the full time, which I need to write down all the time, the year, and the date. This is really helpful, especially like in January, February, when I'm putting the wrong year still, sometimes out to March because I'm smart like that. And then, the day and the date, which you could also switch that layout depending on where you are, geographically. But that to say, I don't have to like switch through the settings to get any of the information I would quickly need to access while like charting or while filling out a form or anything like that. I have it all written out in its long form right there on the front. So that is huge. Um, Second is, let's see, oh yeah, the data bank feature, right? So I can't show it on mine because I have actual doctors' names and numbers on there that I'm sure would not want calls from random people on the internet. But you can store so many. I think it's like 25 or 50 numbers on here. Now, where that comes in handy is, so just so you guys know, like I work primarily in like the PACU context. Like that's my home. I move around a little bit where need be, but that's my home. So a lot of times if you have a patient and you need something like, let's say for pain, like I've given them whatever was already assigned for pain, and they need something else, or they're having a weird reaction, or maybe we're having difficulty breathing longer than we should coming out of anesthesia, you need to get a hold of the anesthesia doc, right? So or the CRNA. So when doing that, in the past, I would have to run over, find this laminated, terrible, most of the time not updated sheet that also moves spots, look for the doctor's number, and then call them. Instead, with this, I have all the important, so I have all of the anesthesia providers, I have general room numbers, I have the house supervisor number, everyone that I may need to quickly call in an instant in times when I don't want to have to look for the book. I have it all right here on my wrist, just one click away. And just to scroll to what I need in like 5 seconds, I have the number that I need, right? Which just leads to better patient care directly. Like it's invaluable in that context. Now, the calculator, right? This is in my opinion, the final form of the calculator watch, which is huge. Quick math, if you've done anything in the medical field, is huge. We do it all the time. So if I do it so much, why do I need a watch to be able to do it? Because when you are multitasking and you have to do a conversion, or I have 10 things going on and I'm bringing in a patient and I need to get that patient's weight but subtract the weight of the wheelchair, sometimes I don't want to have to do quick math or rely on quick math as I'm doing 6 other things or keeping other things in mind. So what this does is basically just confirms my quick math sometimes, which, as you know, if you're on hour 12 of your shift, is invaluable. None of us think, to the top, the best of our abilities when you're tired and you're at the end of your week. So this is just amazing for quick math. Um, Reason number 4, alarms. It has 5 alarms and an hourly chime. I can say words, and an hourly chime, which is invaluable, as you know, for just day to day tasks. It's just incredibly helpful because there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things that need to be timed specifically and independently to themselves. So I can time 5 things at once with alarms that will grab my attention. And by the way, this alarm is also loud enough that it has woken me up from dead sleep. So keep that in mind. Number 5, it has a stopwatch, which to me is super valuable for small things that don't need to be timed as exact, right? Because sometimes I will use all 5 of my alarms, and then what do you do if you need to time something that doesn't necessarily need an alarm? What I mean by that is what we do a lot is like pregnancy tests, right? You run the pregnancy test, it's supposed to run for 3 minutes, right? And then you go back, see the results, sign off. Another staff member will come and sign off on it, and then that's how we know we can go into procedure and there's not a pregnancy that anesthesia could possibly affect, right? So that doesn't need an alarm. I could go back in 10 minutes, I could go back in 15 minutes, we could do the whole admin and I could circle back to it. So that's where the stopwatch comes in. If I'm on my stopwatch function on this watch, which let me go to it real quick. As you can see, it still shows me the time at the bottom of the screen, which is invaluable because if I'm on the stopwatch screen, then I know that I have the stopwatch on for some reason. So we'll use a pregnancy test, for example. Then I can look down and be like, oh, I started that 10 minutes ago. I need to remember to go back and sign that and ask someone to co-sign it, right? And I still have the time. So I can quickly check the time and also have that reminder that there's something that needs my attention that is not an emergency, but something that needs my attention. And that's the amount of time it's been waiting, right? So huge, huge, huge daily help. Number 6 is it has a setting on here where if I turn my wrist, right, it turns the light on. Currently, that doesn't really do a ton for me just because I'm always in a lit room now. But I used to work in hospice care and long term care in a long term care facility. And that was invaluable because there's a lot of like, taking vitals, passing meds, doing that kind of thing. Even sometimes doing like examinations on like wounds, wound care when I'm in a dark room because they're asleep and it's 3 a.m. and I am not going to be that person who lights up the whole room and wakes up my patient every 3 hours on the dot to do my job. I'd like to think I could be better than that. So, what I would typically do is have a small flashlight and have that setting on so I can just turn my wrist and it tells me the time, the date, everything that I might need in that current moment, or if you're timing for, getting a pulse manually, anything like that, I can do it without, hitting the button to know the time. I can keep my fingers on the pulse and I could just turn it and know and keep count of my times without waking up my patient. And then finally, number 7, the durability. I have swam with this watch. So that was a huge thing that I was trying to find out the actual water resistance on the watch, and I couldn't really find anything. It just kind of said, that it is water resistant, which means nothing, right? It doesn't have like the bars or any specific amount that is water resistant to. And I was super suspicious because of these buttons, because of these pushers. How water resistant could it be? Well, there was like a whole summer where I wore this almost every day. And as you can see by all the scratching and dings that have occurred on the screen there, I beat the actual crap out of this watch and I swam with it. I don't dive. I swam, in a pool, in a lake, in a few other places, nothing further than 10 feet deep, which I don't think any of us ever have or possibly ever will. But that to say, it is as waterproof as I could ever possibly need. I also took hot showers to clean it. I would just clean it with me in the shower. And I banged it against walls, had people bang it for me against walls since it's attached to my arm, and pretty much everything you could possibly imagine aside from getting run over by a 2-ton truck. And it's held up. So, those are my reasons why I think that is just an amazing watch for healthcare providers, like anything from like CNA, CMA, LPN, RN, doctor, anyone. It has tools in here, the anesthesia provider, that will be of good use to all of us for what we need to watch for. So I'm not going to drag on, I want to keep it short and concise, but that is why I firmly believe that the Casio databank, from a practical standpoint, is the ultimate healthcare provider watch.